Every once in a while, I come across somebody who says, "Hey, Kurt, how do I meet my twin flame? That sounds really nice. Can you help me meet my twin flame, Kurt?" And my reaction is, no! You don't know what you're asking. You don't want that. And I'm going to go into the reasons why somebody would ask that question and why I would respond that way. And when you understand those things, number one, you're going to know what really happens after you meet your twin flame. Number two, what can you do about it? What can you do to feel better and even to get this person to come back? If you're new here, welcome. My name is Kurt. I'm the world's leading twin flame coach. I've coached over 5,000 twin flame students. I've got a team of people assisting me here at New World All-Star, and that's what we do. We help people navigate this painful journey and come out the other end in a beautiful place, guys. And it's a place that can include your twin flame is physically there with you. It happens all the time, guys, with my students, 5,000 of them. So if you're new here, welcome. I think you're going to get something a little different than what maybe you've heard before about twin flames. Now, let's dig into this question that somebody would have about, I want to meet my twin flame, because they think what happens after you meet your twin flame is like all this beautiful stuff, right? And eventually that's what can happen. We'd like that to happen. But because of the dogmatic pop culture kind of version of twin flames that's on the internet, a lot of my students, for example, they'll come to me and they've gone through these repeating cycles and they're just stuck and they don't know what to do. And a lot of them have even spent a lot of money and all this, and you could just watch my free YouTube videos and you'll start to feel better. You can go watch my free coaching videos on my YouTube channel and you're going to see that the core of how I teach this is very, very different. This is not what people think it is, the pop culture version of twin flames on the internet. And there's so many different versions of the pop culture version of twin flames versus the actual, what are twin flames, that I don't even like to call it twin flames anymore. People, like, why somebody would want to meet their twin flame, why somebody would come to me and go, "Oh, Kurt, that sounds really great. Can you help me meet my twin flame?" is because it's romanticized twin flames. And that's not to say that you can't have romance with your twin flame eventually. That a lot of my students marry their twin flame, right? But at the front end, when you go into it with that way of looking at it, it gets confusing. You don't really see what this is all about. And what I do is I kind of demystify the dogma. I take that dogma out, and my approach is scientific. People think twin flames is like soulmates, only better. There, I said it, right? That's why somebody would ask me that question, "Kurt, can you help me meet my twin flame? That sounds really great." Because if you look at the internet, kind of the pop culture version of twin flames on the internet, it's like they are giving you this impression that it's like soulmates, only better. And if you were to ask one of even the people who teach this, what is the difference between a twin flame and a soulmate, they're not really going to have a clear-cut answer. There's just going to be a bunch of word salad. And that's one of the first things that you're going to notice when you find out what this really is all about, is there is a clear-cut answer. Your twin flame is you. Everybody else is just everybody else. You and your twin flame are one soul in two bodies. And if you want to know what to do about this journey, you just have to do as the soul does. I call it soul stuff. And it's not the dogmatic, new agey kind of woo-woo. And I'm not saying that stuff is bad. That's just not what this is, right? But like the healing and clearing your karma and fixing your inner child and balancing your inner feminine and masculine and doing past life regression on your twin flame and sending healing energy to your divine masculine and all the kind of things like that, which ordinarily might not necessarily be a bad thing, especially if you're dealing with a soulmate connection. There's my soul and your soul. Those are two souls, different souls, and they are mated together, soulmates. That's not what twin flames are. And again, I don't even want to call it twin flames anymore. I would rather call it simultaneous incarnations. Simultaneous incarnations, right? The soul incarnates, reincarnates, past lives, future lives. You just have two incarnations of your soul. That person is you. Now, why is it so painful if they're my soul? So this is kind of the, what happens after you meet your twin flame, right? Actual twin flame. Well, it's really painful, isn't it? So at the beginning, it's awesome. There's the bubble phase at the beginning, and it's beautiful, and the angels are singing, and there's unicorns flying out of your behind, and all this kind of stuff. And it is really good. It's like everything is ideal, like the way it should be during that bubble phase at the very beginning. And for most people, that's somewhere between like 4 and 8 weeks. Almost all. There are exceptions, so if that's not what happened for you, that's okay. But almost all, it's between 4 and 8 weeks. And then the energy builds up, and then they run. And when they run, ordinarily, it wouldn't be a big deal. You might be kind of like upset about it, like, oh, I thought that was really good. That sucks. And you might even be kind of a little bit heartbroken about it, but that's not what happens with your twin flame. It destroys you. Holy shit. And you're a disaster train wreck from hell. Holy guacamole. Oh my God. Go watch my video called The 5 True Signs You Met Your Twin Flame. There's a playlist. All my free coaching videos, I compiled like the greatest hits on my YouTube channel here. The name of the playlist is called How to Get Your Twin Flame. Go check those videos out. The first video is called The 5 True Signs You Met Your Twin Flame. And, get through the first at least like 10, 15 minutes, because at between 8 and 10 minutes is when I get to the good stuff, right? The dark night of the soul, which is this horrible experience. Holy shit. It's like your whole world is falling apart and you are a mess. You can't even function. Basic things like eat. I shouldn't laugh about it, but oh my God. And then the obsessive thinking. Holy shit. It's like it's happening to you. It's like it's happening to you. You cannot stop thinking about this person. And your mind is going 1 billion miles an hour, and it's out of this world, you guys. Now, what about what happens after that? Well, like I said, I think I said this earlier. If not, I'll say it again really quick here. That you could go through some cycles. A lot of the people that come to me, they go through cycles. And it's like, after a while, they go, I'm fucking stuck. I can't seem to move forward here. What's going on? I'm going through these cycles all the time. How come I can't quite move up from this plateau? Well, it's because they're plugged into this other information about twin flames, which actually is a description of soulmates. They just put the label twin flame on it. And then it really doesn't help that you have these soulmate couples on the internet who have a beautiful relationship. And I'm really happy for them. Guys, I think it's so goddamn beautiful what they have. I really do. And the tools they're giving you are effective, but they're confused. They think that they are twin flames. So it comes down to semantics, I guess. But if you look at the literature before the internet, right? What are twin flames? It's your spiritual awakening, and it starts with a very painful experience called dark night of the soul or ego death. And it's your spiritual awakening. The ego is dying. And when things die, it fucking hurts. It's horrible. Now, what should happen is you rise from the ashes and this amazing spiritual awakening takes place. And after some time, you look back on the dark night of the soul, or ego death, as it's been called for thousands of years. In ancient spiritualism, never mind twin flames, just anybody's spiritual awakening for any reason, anything, the twin flame does not trigger the spiritual awakening, right? It's something else, and it's usually something else. Twin flames is what's more, it's one reason you can awaken spiritually. It's one of thousands, right, of reasons. Most people, it's life circumstances, it's a death in the family, a terminal illness, things falling apart, you lose your job, you lose everything, I don't know. Whatever it is, but it triggers an ego death, and then the ego melts away. Remember, your body, mind, soul, the mind or the ego, it's like onion layers of this energy body, like melt away and die off. And all that's left is your body and your consciousness, right? Some amount of tenuous ego remains, just enough for you to kind of navigate the world, right? But it's your spiritual awakening. And for most people, it's something else. Well, twin flame, same thing. It's your soul that initiates your soul awakening. It's a direct awakening experience. And what happens to a lot of people is they get hooked into the pop culture version of twin flames, which is actually soulmates. They just put the label twin flame on it. And again, when you look at older literature from long ago, when they talk about twin flames, it's your spiritual awakening. It's very painful. It's not all roses and romantic and pretty. And by the time your twin flame does come back to stay with you permanently, you are on a higher plane of existence, just your consciousness. And it's not like an egotistical, arrogant kind of thing where it's like, I am on a higher plane of existence. I am better than you. No, if anything, you are way more compassionate and empathetic and less arrogant than you've ever been, let's just say, actually. And the way that you deal with people shows that you are more humble and compassionate and all those good things, those good qualities that everybody would like to aspire to be. You just organically, naturally are just able to do that suddenly. But why that's happening is you have this greater awareness. Your consciousness has expanded. Ego has actually dissipated. So when you go through that ego death, aka dark night of the soul, as they call it sometimes, that part of you, the three-part triune being, body, mind, soul, that part of the mind, the ego, is like dying and melting away. And your twin flame, they come back and you're just like fully conscious, and your twin flame doesn't even have to know what's going on. And guys, 5,000 students, my students, their twin flame, you don't even need to tell your twin flame that you are twin flames or anything like that. They just want to be around you all the time. They're just drawn to you. And that's it. They're just living their life, and they just like you. They just want to be around you all the time. You don't even have to tell them that you're twin flames. And they don't necessarily make a pointed effort to work on themselves either. They just want to be around you all the time. And you do make a pointed effort. And if you want to know why it works that way, go watch my video called What Are Twin Flames? I've also made videos talking about what does your twin flame go through? What do they feel? What do they experience? These types of things. There seems to be kind of a yin and yang relationship, conceptually or mentally, between you and them. There seems to be that duality, yin yang. Alpha, omega, that's the mind. It's duality. Body, mind, soul. The mind is duality. The soul is non-duality. The soul is singularity. It's just consciousness. But thought, the mind, is duality, yin yang, right? Whereas the soul is the one. It's the oneness. It's non-duality. It's the one. The mind is duality. It's opposites. So you are intentionally working on yourself. They are not. They're just, do they change? Do they improve? I don't know. I don't think so. My twin flame, I guess, well, I don't know. I don't want to turn this video into another topic. Go watch my other videos called What Do They Go Through? And there doesn't seem to be a clear answer. Like all of my students, if there was a clear one-way answer, it's one way, it works like this, then everybody would be having the same experience, and they don't. Everybody, what their twin flame does or goes through, it's all different for all of my students. But the one thing that does always happen every time, the one thing that is the same every time, is they come back and they just want to be around you all the time. And it's like they don't know why they're so drawn to you, but at the same time, you do know why they're drawn to you. They don't know, you do know. Yin yang, conscious, unconscious, or subconscious, conscious, right? So it makes sense why it seems to work that way, but if you dig into the psychological reasons, that's where you kind of get lost in the translation, if you will. Lost, you're kind of getting into the sticks, and it doesn't really provide any clear-cut answers. The only clear-cut answer is you seem to be aware of what's going on, and they just respond to it. When you feel an energetic shift, they come back. You're the one that felt the shift. They just came back. You're aware of what's going on. They just respond to it, kind of thing. Yin, yang, right? But that's the conceptual, that's the mind, and that's fine. So there is that element to this, body, mind, soul. Well, it does work on duality, the mind, and they've always known that. The ancients, the mystics, never mind twin flames, for thousands of years. And this is how I teach twin flames to people. That's why I ended up in this role, I guess, as the leader, if you will, of the twin flame community. It's kind of an odd job title. And I didn't think I was doing anything special. I don't think I'm special. I just noticed that your twin flame is your soul. It's not soul mates. It's not your soul and my soul were mated. No, it's one. It's one thing in two bodies. And I said, wait a minute, if I just embrace ancient Zen spiritualism and I don't worry about the physical person, I wonder what would happen. And sure enough, she came back. And it was easy. What you're doing is hard. Some of you guys watching, and again, it doesn't help that there's the pop culture-y information on the internet, right? And again, the older literature that you find about twin flames, they're going to describe if the one element that's always the same is the awakening, the spiritual awakening. Everybody's going to have what seems to be like a different interpretation. And I think the reason people think I'm some kind of a revolutionary twin flame teacher is I try to not add anything to it. I try to take interpretation off. I try to not interpret. I just look at energy and describe what the energy is doing. That's why when I tell you, what does divine masculine go through, I'm telling you, well, whatever they're going through, but they just want to be around you. They don't know, they don't seem to know why. There doesn't seem to be a consistency among all my students, 5,000 of them. And then people on my YouTube channel, almost 60,000 of you beautiful people to date. This is kind of what I see people talking about, which is, yeah, my twin flame did this, and then somebody else says, well, my twin flame did this, and there's no consistency on why your divine masculine does the things they do, or the reasons, getting into the sticks, getting into the psychoanalysts, right, of why they're doing what they're doing. The only thing that is consistent that I see is, you know why they're coming back when they come back. They don't. They have all, like if you put 10 students together of my students or even YouTube subscribers, they're out of their twin flame, all 10 of them are all going to have different reasons. But the one thing that is the same among all 10 of them is I felt a shift and they came back and they just wanted to be with me and they gave whatever different kind of reasons for why they wanted to come back. But when I felt a shift, they came back. That's the one thing that's the same, do you see? So that's why I try to not get into the like psychological reasons of it, because it doesn't matter. It's pure energy. It's just yin yang. It's just pure opposites. It's just pure logic. It's just pure reason. It's law. It's not laws. It's not concepts. It's just what is concept? Well, it's on off. It's like a computer. It's the mind. Ones and zeros, on off, good, bad, 1, 0, right? And that's what happens after you meet your twin flame. You are awakened spiritually. You're feeling amazing. You're feeling good. You're not obsessing over this person anymore. You do feel more compassion. Why? Because your consciousness is expanding. Your awareness is expanding. That's what happens after you meet your twin flame. You are awakened spiritually. They are your soul. This is your spiritual awakening. There's no interpretation. It's just energy. That's how I treat this. I try to treat this scientifically. There's no interpretation. There's just energy. You have a shift and they come back and you are thus aware that, hey, they came back because I felt an energetic like rising of my energy. I felt like my energy increased somehow. I reached this higher plateau of conscious clarity. Yeah, it's called spiritual awakening. Spiritually awakening. And every time you have one of those breakthroughs, they show up, they come back. And every time, it doesn't matter which student it is, their twin flame is always going to have a different reason from all the other students. All the other students' twin flames are going to have different reasons for why they think they came back. So that part is not consistent, but what is consistent is you have a greater awakening. Your consciousness, it seems to increase. It seems to go up, right? And you just have this deeper knowing that you're transforming fundamentally beyond concept. Like I have to communicate to you in this video using words and concepts, and that's hard. To communicate consciousness or expansion, like awakening, enlightenment. It's hard to communicate that because consciousness is not thought. So to explain to you what consciousness is, I necessarily have to use a train of thoughts. And you can't. But I could use certain words, certain buzzwords, I guess, nirvana, awakening, awareness, expansion. You have a deeper knowing, a deeper awareness of what is going on around you. You're enlightened. You're not holier than thou. Oh, I am enlightened. No, it's actually more humble, but at the same time, you see things more clearly the way they are. It's a spiritual awakening. Your consciousness is increasing. Your awareness is increasing. That is what's going on. The ego, the layers of the ego, of duality, the retained thought and emotional patterns that get caked onto us and stick in layers. They call it a personality. A lot of those dissipate and it just keeps going. Like the further and further you go away from the ego death, dark night of the soul experience, years after, it never stops. You never stop waking up and changing and transforming. You never stop doing that. It just goes on and on and on. And your twin flame, the higher you go, the more they want to be around you. And they, again, every individual person's twin flame is going to have different reasons. So Are they changing? I don't know. They all seem to have different experiences. The so-called divine masculine. It's not really divine masculine. It's not really based on biological sex, right? It's energy. It's anode cathode. It's plus minus. It's yin yang, right? That polarization between the two people. Okay, so that remains in the physical world. The body and the mind are duality. But the soul is non-duality, and you just go deeper and deeper into that non-duality of soul, which is what necessarily attracts them to you. You're going deeper into the soul. They are another incarnation of your soul, right? So they want to be around you all the time, but they never seem to really figure it out. Meanwhile, you're there the whole time knowing exactly what's going on at this level of knowing that's so fucking deep that you can't even describe it with words, right? That's what happens after you meet your twin flame. I'm not talking about butterflies and romance and shit like that. That's soulmates, and that's fine. Now, what do you actually end up doing with your twin flame? Whatever you want to do. The doing is whatever. You can act in romantic ways. You can hold hands and kiss and touch and hang out and whatever. Or you could be friends. Whatever you want to do with your twin flame is fine. I've got students that say, I'd rather just be with a soulmate for romantic purposes. And then other students, they get married to their twin flame. The twin flame is your soul in another body. They're here to bring the soul out and to get rid of the ego. Your soul is mastering this all from the higher realm of the energy part of the universe, what people sometimes call heaven, right? Your higher self, if you will, that's up there managing this whole experience that the two of you are having. It's actually your higher self managing the experience, right? And here, watch this. Okay, apologies. I made another video with this diagram the other day, and I tore it in half because I thought I was done with it. And it's actually really useful. I think I just need to make a new one and reprint it. I deleted the file too. What was I thinking? But anyway, so, in the energy part of the universe, the afterlife, the before life, heaven, whatever you want to call it, physicists call it dark matter, dark energy. It's where you go when you do the thing that we call die. And it's not really a place that you're going. It's really a different plane, plane, and it's metaphysical. So this is your higher self up in heaven, if you will, right? The energy part of the universe. And what I'm showing you here is incarnating, when your soul incarnates, right? And the oversoul, I don't think it's really called an oversoul. I think that's more like soul families. So I guess higher self. It's cognizant, it is aware of all the incarnations all at one time. And there is no such thing as time. We all know that. Albert Einstein, he's the one that came up with that, and then they went on and proved it. No, actually, strange to say, we actually have shown that there really is no such thing as time. How strange. Now, this is what's going on with you and your twin flame. So needless to say, whatever experience you're having, your oversoul is managing the whole thing, right? And the easiest thing to do is, what I teach my students is to just kind of flow with things instead of resisting what is. And it seems to go better, which again is something you learn to do in anybody's spiritual awakening for whatever reason that they are having a spiritual awakening. Whatever reason that you are having a spiritual awakening, whatever triggered it, whatever caused the awakening to start. And it starts most of the time, most people, a lot of people, they'll have an ego death or dark night of the soul. And ego death is a term that's been around for thousands of years, guys. It's got nothing to do with twin flames. Also, separation consciousness, unity consciousness. There's a couple more words. So what do you see all the time in the so-called twin flame community? Separation, or union. Well, that's where those words came from. And it's got nothing to do with being with your twin flame, actually. Although, if you leave separation consciousness behind and enter unity consciousness, which is where you transcend the ego, guess what? Your twin flame comes back. Why? Because they are your soul. And because you are leaving behind the ego, you are moving closer and closer to actual consciousness. And it brings the gap between you two smaller and smaller and smaller. Now, are they moving up the scale with you? That's a question people ask me all the time. And I can't tell. I'm just going to be honest with you about that. With all the research I've done, and this is one of the questions I want an answer to, is do they change? Do they evolve somehow? Because if most of the time, most of my students, your twin flame, it might be a different story, but almost all of my students, and my twin flame too, you talk to them about this and they're like, yeah, not really. Are you sure? How can that be? Whatever. But on the other hand, guys, there's all these other soul incarnations too. I mean, 200 years ago, you could have been a man who was some jerkwad who beat his wife all the time. I don't know. I mean, imagine how many incarnations that you've had. You've been a villain and a saint and a king and a priest and a banker and a servant and a slave and a doctor and I don't know, whatever. Like, how many hundreds or thousands or more of incarnations have you had, right? And what is ascension and what is time? Like, just to put this into perspective for you, like the mind thinks about these questions I'm raising in a linear fashion and it gets confusing. So if you really want the answer to these kind of questions, you got to go in here, guys. That's the best thing you can do, is embrace your awakening. But again, when you meet your twin flame, you're more prone to ask questions like this and think about this kind of stuff. This is what really should be happening after you meet your twin flame. But again, if you get stuck in the cycles of the pop culture-y kind of version of twin flames, which is actually soulmates, they just put the label twin flame on it, then you might stay stuck down there for a while. You can't get answers. Well, you can't think your way. You cannot figure out your way into what I'm talking about in this video, which is enlightenment. I try really hard. That's why these videos have been a little longish lately, is because I'm trying really hard to explain something very deep to you. But sometimes it leaves more questions for you than answers, right? So you're just going to have to do it yourself. What I'm trying to show you about consciousness, about your twin flame, same thing, is something that cannot be figured out, understood with the mind. You experience it as the self. And for those of you who really are embracing this journey the way that it was meant to be embraced, that might make more sense to you. Thank you very much for watching. Have a great week. Bye.